Om Kalindi Phulla Kamale Madhavena Kridharata Brahmananda Namastubhyam Sadguru Lokanayaka. Friends, we have this opportunity to reflect on the lives and teachings of three very prominent direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Today we will reflect on Swami Brahmananda. On March 17th, we will do the same for Swami Shivananda, and on March 24th, Swami Sardananda. So, regarding Swami Brahmananda, as you heard Yogatmananda ji mentioned during his Sunday talk, he was known as the spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna. And not just Sri Ramakrishna, also Holy Mother. There's a very interesting incident. Once Holy Mother was distributing some ochre cloth to some monks, and she was giving to each one. And they noticed that they were getting kind of a lower grade cotton cloth, and when the time came for Swami Brahmananda, she gave him a silk cloth, much higher grade. And so these disciples, of course, they asked, what's this discrimination? And Holy Mother, of course, without batting an eyelid, she said, well, that's because he's my son. So it was no doubt in anybody's mind the special status of Swami Brahmananda. But I do want to mention, in the early days of the Belur Math monastery, on special days when they would celebrate the birthday of these direct disciples, as you know, they had 16 direct disciples. So there was a very famous kirtan, with the refrain of which was, "Oh, you direct disciples, why did you all decide to come together?" And the implication there being that, of course, Swami Vivekananda was their undisputed leader, and his oratory and his biography and his prescience, they were amazingly brilliant. But what that did, unfortunately, was that some of these other direct disciples, we didn't really get a chance to know them so intimately. So I hope that after we look at these three lives, we will appreciate their contributions much more favorably. So about Swami Brahmananda, Sri Ramakrishna himself said that he was a Ishwar Koti Nitya Siddha, which means that in his past life he had pretty much exhausted his karma. He just came in his last avatar just to kind of show us or demonstrate to us how to live a spiritual life. So, I don't think you can read it, but I will read it out for you. His pre-monastic name was Rakhal Chandra Ghosh. He was born on 21st January 1863. And as you know, Swami Vivekananda's birthday is 12th, according to the Gregorian calendar, 12th January 1863. So he was 9 days younger to Swami Vivekananda. His father was Ananda Mohan Ghosh, a very rich landlord, zamindar. His mother was Kailash Kamini Devi. And he was born in Shikra Kulingram. Shikra Kulingram is, I would say, about 35 miles outside of Kolkata. And today, there is a very beautiful temple in Swami Brahmananda's memory. So, his mother, Kailash Kamini Devi, she died when Brahmananda was just 5 years old. And she died while giving birth to quadruplets. So, as you can imagine, his father, Ananda Mohan Ghosh, now had to take care of 5 children, 4 of them just newly born. So he remarried. And then Rakhal, he went to this Shikra Kuningram school. When he finished school, of course, there was no facility for higher education available in that village. This was a village. So Rakhal came to Kolkata. And he stayed at his stepmother's father's place. And he got admitted to the Metropolitan School, which was a very famous school at that time. Now, at that place, Metropolitan School, and at the gymnasium that Rakhal used to visit, he befriended Narendranath Datta, Swami Vivekananda later. So their friendship began very early, and we will see some instances of this amazing, fantastic relationship that they had. Now, as I said, Rakhal went to the Metropolitan School, and he was very good at wrestling. He was very knowledgeable about music, but unfortunately, he had no interest in what we call the regular studies. So his father was a bit concerned that, well, I have all this land and I would like him to succeed as a zamindar after me. So as used to be the case in those days, they thought that, well, if they got him married, that would solve all these problems. So they got him married. He was about 18, and his wife, Vishweshwari Devi, she was about 11. In those days, child marriage was pretty common, so we can't really judge by today's standards. So he was about 18, she was about 11. Now it so happened that Vishweshwari Devi's brother, Monomohan Mitro, he was a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. And this is 1880s. So Sri Ramakrishna has now started to become known. A lot of people come to him in Dakshineshwar. So Monomohan Mitro also decided to now not only go to Sri Ramakrishna, but take Rakhal with him, his brother-in-law with him. And that is where we come to this prayer that we recited at the beginning. It so happened that, as I said, Sri Ramakrishna was becoming famous. People were coming to him. He would have all these conversations. But Sri Ramakrishna had started to kind of become very disillusioned with these experiences. And the proximate case was that of Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee was a very well-known author, intellectual of those times. He came to visit Sri Ramakrishna, and he made a very impudent comment. And Sri Ramakrishna was so repulsed by it that he went to the Divine Mother and said, Divine Mother, I hate talking to these people. Please give me a boy with whom I can have some spiritual conversations and with whom I can train. So the Divine Mother answered his prayer, and one day in a vision, she said, okay, you will have a son. And of course, Sri Ramakrishna now was horrified. I am a sannyasi kind of a person. How can I have a son? So the Divine Mother again reassured him, okay, it's not the regular kind of son, it will be your spiritual son. So Sri Ramakrishna was happy. And then Sri Ramakrishna had this vision. So the vision was that on the Ganges, of course, as you know, Dakshineshwar is on the banks of the river Ganges. On the Ganges, which was as it were Yamuna. So the prayer that we said, Kalindi Phulla Kamale, Kalindi actually refers to the river Yamuna. But for Sri Ramakrishna, in his vision, the Ganges was the Yamuna. On the Ganges, there was 1,000-petaled lotus. And on that lotus, there were two boys dancing and playing. One of them was Krishna. The other one was a playmate of Krishna. This vision Sri Ramakrishna had. And miraculously, just after that vision, Monomohan Mitro decided to bring Rakhal to Sri Ramakrishna, and they used to live in Konnagore. Konnagore is, you can say, about 7-8 miles north of Dakshineshwar on the opposite bank of Ganges. So they took a boat. So the moment that boat came and docked at Dakshineshwar, Sri Ramakrishna saw Rakhal, he knew that this was the person Divine Mother had sent for him. So he asked him, "What's your name?" The moment he said Rakhal Chandra Ghosh, Sri Ramakrishna went into ecstasy. Now he was absolutely sure that this is the boy. Okay. And he said to, of course, Rakhal, "Please come again." And Rakhal started coming again. And now, because Rakhal started to come very often, his father now became even more anxious, because he had thought that, well, by getting his son married, that would solve the problems. Now the son is married and yet doesn't stay at his in-laws' place, but is staying most of the time in Dakshineshwar. So his father is now very mad at his son, and they have an argument, and the son is rebellious. So he decides to lock up his son. So in his house, in his room, he locks him up. And here Sri Ramakrishna is unable to see Rakhal, so he is praying to Divine Mother, "Divine Mother, what happened to Rakhal? Why doesn't he come?" Rakhal is locked up in his room, praying to the mother as to why can't I see Sri Ramakrishna. And it so happens that at this time, Ananda Mohan, his father, was in the midst of a very difficult court case, a case which he had no hope of winning, but he had to spend all his energy in working on that case. So in all this obsession with that court case, one day he forgot to lock up his son, so the son escaped, and as you can imagine, the son straight away went to Dakshineshwar. So now his father realized it, but again, he was so much enmeshed in that case that he didn't go for 3-4 days. And again, miraculously, he won the case, much to his surprise. He had never, ever imagined him winning the case. But now he thought, see, there must be some reason I won this case. Could it be that it was because of my son's association with Sri Ramakrishna? So he goes to Dakshineshwar. Rakhal sees his father coming. He knows what's up for him. So Rakhal is very nervous, very anxious. Sri Ramakrishna reassures him, don't be nervous. Pay your respect to your father. He's your father, and let me deal with it. So his father comes to this room, and Sri Ramakrishna is at his charming best. He says, "Oh, what a wonderful son you have. And why not? Son is like a father, just like his father, he's like that." So his Ananda Mohan Ghosh is flattered. And Ananda Mohan Ghosh also sees many kind of distinguished people in that room, judges and lawyers. And then he thinks in his mind, maybe it's not a bad idea after all, because at least by this process, I will have befriended, I will have friendship with these important people, and that will be good for my business. So Sri Ramakrishna says, you see, Rakhal has this spiritual temperament. Would you mind if he comes here? His father says, no, I don't really mind. But please send him home during the night. And Sri Ramakrishna kind of agrees. So that's when you can say Rakhal's training starts. But Rakhal's training is also very fascinating. In this tradition, in the monastic tradition, we know that if you can serve your guru, there's nothing better than that. But when we read Rakhal's service to Guru, it's really hilarious and also very surprising. So just to give you a few instances. So Sri Ramakrishna says, "Rakhal, can you make me a pan?" Pan means there's a betel leaf. Into it you put some lime, you put some nut and some ingredients. They're all in a box typically. You take a little bit of each, roll up the leaf, and then you eat it. It's a kind of a digestive. So Sri Ramakrishna says to Rakhal, Rakhal, can you make me a pan? Rakhal says, no. Sri Ramakrishna says, why? He says, I don't know. So Sri Ramakrishna says, what is there to know in a pan? You just add these things. Rakhal said, no, I just can't. So flat refusal. Then another day, Sri Ramakrishna says, my feet are aching. Could you massage my feet a little bit? He says, no. So Sri Ramakrishna says, you see, when you serve a guru, it gives you a lot of karma, good karma credits. So reluctantly, Rakhal starts to massage Sri Ramakrishna's feet. And lo and behold, soon, what does he see? He sees a little girl, about 10, 11, 12 years old, coming out from the Kali temple. And Sri Ramakrishna, is of course in his room. For those of you who have been to Dakshineshwar, you know, there's a good amount of distance. So that lady walks, the girl walks, comes to Sri Ramakrishna's room, circumambulates the room, and then goes back into the Kali temple. And Rakhal, of course, realizes that this is nothing but a form of the divine. And Sri Ramakrishna then smiles and says, well, did you get any credit by serving me? So then Rakhal has, of course, no answer. Then Rakhal, he's a young boy, 18 years old, but his relationship with Sri Ramakrishna is very fascinating. He behaves as if he's a 5-year-old kid. He sits on the lap of Sri Ramakrishna. He says to Sri Ramakrishna, I'm so hungry. And Sri Ramakrishna is also so concerned. So one day it so happens, he says to Sri Ramakrishna, I'm very hungry. So Sri Ramakrishna says, what can I do? There is no food in in my room. So he goes to the Ganges and says, oh, Gaurdashi, my Rakhal is so hungry. Gaurdashi, he's referring to Gaurima, a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. And lo and behold, we see very soon a boat comes in with Balaram Bosh and Gaurima, and they bring these Rosagollas for Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna then gives it to Rakhal. Says, see, I prayed to Gaurima, or I prayed to the Divine Mother, Gaurima has come. And Rakhal is now embarrassed. He said, do you have to publicize this? But you see the relationship, so innocent. And then, by this time, Rakhal is kind of getting a little impatient. He knows that one should get these spiritual visions. He has had not much. So he complains to Sri Ramakrishna. See, I'm here for so long. I'm serving you for so long. I got no spiritual visions. So please do something. And Sri Ramakrishna just ignores him. Again, he says something. Sri Ramakrishna ignores him. In a huff, he says, okay, I've had enough. I can't stay here. I have no interest in staying. So he starts to leave Dakshineshwar. And he goes towards the main gate. And the moment he approaches the main gate, it seems as if his feet are of lead. He just can't move his feet. And Sri Ramakrishna, of course, is looking at all this. And then Rakhal turns around. Sri Ramakrishna sends Ramlal. And then when Ramlal brings him, he says, could you leave? Rakhal, of course, has no answer. He says, see, I put a boundary, a Lakshman Rekha. You just cannot. And then, of course, he does get these spiritual visions. And in this process, as we just said, he also comes, Narendranath and he are good friends even at the gymnasium, but now Narendranath also has started to visit Dakshineshwar, so they both are very good friends and also brother disciples. Now, again, the training that Rakhal gets, it seems as if it's all kind of Sri Ramakrishna's weakness toward him, but it's not just that. Sri Ramakrishna was also a very hard taskmaster. And we'll just look at a couple of examples. One, Rakhal, one day he is in a street and he sees a rupee coin. So he picks it up, gives it to a beggar. And when he comes back, he is very anxious to narrate it to Sri Ramakrishna. You see, There was this coin on the street. I picked it up. I gave it to a beggar. And he thought Sri Ramakrishna would be very pleased. Sri Ramakrishna says, "Oh my goodness, what did you do? Why did you touch the money?" So Rakhal says, "No, sir, I didn't really use it for myself. I just picked it up, gave it to the beggar." Sri Ramakrishna says, "No." And Sri Ramakrishna's argument is very interesting. In Bengali, he says, "Tui mach khabi na, to macher bajare jabi keno?" If you don't eat fish, why would you go to a fish market? And the implicit instruction here is that even that little bit of attachment to money has to be gotten rid of. So, and Rakhal understood that message. Then another time, Rakhal comes from, after visiting, he had stepped out of the Dakshineshwar complex, he comes back, and Sri Ramakrishna says, "Rakhal, what's wrong? I can't see your face very clearly. Did you do anything wrong?" And by wrong, Rakhal thinks he's talking about stealing or robbery or adultery or things like that. He says, "No, no, no." Sri Ramakrishna says, "No, there's something. Did you say a lie?" And then Rakhal realizes that he had gone and he was chatting with some of his friends. And in the midst of that conversation, he had exaggerated a bit. And when he tells that to Sri Ramakrishna says, "No, no, no, you cannot compromise on the truth. So truth has to be held supreme." So you see what kind of training he got. Now, let us look at this relationship of Rakhal and Noreen. Very interesting. They both are of the same age, just 9 days apart. But Swami Vivekananda had enormous respect for Rakhal. And we see from his letters of Swami Vivekananda, whenever he would write to Swami Brahmananda, he would address Abhinna Hridayeshu, which means in heart we are not separate, in heart we are one. And when Swami Vivekananda comes to the West, 1893, Parliament of Religions, and after, you can say, conquering the West, he goes back to India. At that time, they were in the Alam Bazar Mutt. And so Swami Vivekananda is back in the Mutt, and they of course have a very grand reception for him. The moment Swami Vivekananda sees Swami Brahmananda, he prostrates before him. Swami Vivekananda prostrating. And he says, "Guruvat Guru Putreshu," which means that the son of the Guru is just like the Guru. Now, Swami Brahmananda is taken aback. He's very embarrassed. And then he prostrates before Swami Vivekananda and he says, "Jeshta Bhrata Samapita." Elder brother is just like a father. And of course, he's elder by just 9 days. But you can see how much respect they have for each other. And I think the biggest sign of respect and friendship was on July 4th, 1902. Why do I say that? As you know, Swami Vivekananda had this Ichamrityu. He, at Amarnath, when he went to Amarnath, he got this boon that you can decide when you will give up this body. And Swamiji had said in more than one place that I will not live to be 40. So Swamiji had decided the date, 4th of July, 1902. But that day in the morning, he sent Brahmananda away. He gave him some errand and he said, "Go to Calcutta." And I think the reason was because had Swami Brahmananda been around, it would have been very, very much more difficult for Swamiji to give up his body. Anyway, so now, of course, as a result of Sri Ramakrishna's training and his own spiritual practices, Rakhal became very, very much a leader. And in Kashipur, when Sri Ramakrishna was taken, as you know, from Dakshineshwar first to Shampukur and then to Kashipur. In Kashipur, by that time they had decided, or they knew, that Sri Ramakrishna would not be with them for too long, and they would continue this association, a monastery kind of an association. So Sri Ramakrishna made this comment that Rakhal, he has the wisdom required for governing, and he can run a kingdom. Rakhal is like a Raja. And Swami Vivekananda immediately understood that when they formed this monastic organization, Rakhal would be the head. And that's why even today in this tradition, he is known as Raja. Raja Maharaj is the most common way. So in this order, when we say only Swamiji, we are referring to Swami Vivekananda. When we say only Maharaj, we are referring to Swami Brahmananda. So now he has this very high spiritual experiences, but what we find is after Sri Ramakrishna leaves his mortal body, they first go to Boran. These disciples, they rent a house in Boranagar, and then they start living together, doing all these practices, and then they start to wander. And Swami Brahmananda also went to many places of pilgrimage, and his spiritual austerities were just amazing. Just to give you one example, he goes to this very famous temple. It's called the Omkareshwar temple. It's on the Narmada. And there, at the bank of the Narmada, in a temple that still exists today, he sits for meditation, and for 6 days and 6 nights continuously, he is in this meditative experience. And there are so many other such examples. Now, when he was in Omkareshwar, and this was at the instruction of Swami Vivekananda, that Swami Subodhananda, Khoka Maharaj, was sent with Swami Brahmananda. So that, as you can see, if somebody is in that state, you need somebody to kind of take care of this person. So Swami Subodhananda and also Vijay Krishna Goswami. Vijay Krishna Goswami was a contemporary of Sri Ramakrishna, very respected spiritual figure in his own way. So they see Swami Brahmananda and they ask him that, you see, Sri Ramakrishna gave you every experience possible. Why are you still continuing to practice these austerities so much? And he says, yes, Sri Ramakrishna gave me, but a father's treasure, a son has to now own it. And for me to own it, there is no other recourse but to live in this kind of a life. Okay? So, right. So now let's spend some time in, as I said, this high spiritual state. Now, his name was Rakhal, and Krishna was his Ishta. So it was as if that Swami Brahmananda, his Swarupa, as we call it, his nature was to be with Krishna, and somehow he had brought himself a little down from that plane to be in this, to give spiritual instructions and to serve as an example. Just to give you a couple of examples, in Madras, Chennai, today it's called Chennai, in the Ramakrishna Mutt, he visited South India 3 or 4 times. And the first time when he went to South India, Swami Ramakrishna Nanda, Shashi Maharaj, he was the resident minister. And Shashi Maharaj had this lifelong desire to bring Swami Brahmananda to South India, because he felt that the people of South India had not really seen Sri Ramakrishna. I mean, when we read Sri Ramakrishna's biography, not many people from South India could visit him in Dakshineshwar. So Shashi Maharaj says at many places that once they see Swami Brahmananda, they will know what Sri Ramakrishna was like. Okay, so he comes to Madras, and Swami Brahmananda's room, and there's a long corridor. What happens is there is an orphanage which was started by the Ramakrishna Mission just across the street. And in that orphanage, they had some special festival, some special function event where they dressed a boy as Krishna. In India, it's very common. So after that event, they just wanted to bring that boy to Swami Brahmananda. So Swami Brahmananda gets out of his room, long corridor. At the other end of the corridor, there is this boy dressed as Krishna. Just seeing him, he says, "Krishna, Krishna," he's in ecstasy. And it takes tremendous effort on the part of his attendants to physically lift him up. He is prostrate on the ground. To lift him up, bring him to his room, and bring him back to our level of consciousness. Then another example, Bhanupishi. Bhanupishi is a very interesting character. She lived in the same village of Joyram Bhatti as Holy Mother did. She was, you can say, a companion of Holy Mother, elder to Holy Mother. Holy Mother respected her a lot. So Bhanupishi once, in the midst of some event, she started singing a song. Swami Brahmananda was there, so were many others. And the song had this refrain, Kalo Beral ke pucheche, who has adopted this black cat? This black cat goes to people's houses, drinks milk, drinks butter. Who has? And it's a kind of funny song, and people are laughing. Swami Brahmananda is also laughing. The moment Swami Brahmananda realizes that this black cat is nothing but an allusion to Krishna, he goes into ecstasy. So you can imagine how great his association with Krishna was. Okay. Now, once Sri Ramakrishna leaves his mortal body, they form this association. Then when Swami Vivekananda returns from his first trip in 1897, May 1st, 1897, they form this Ramakrishna Mission. And because of Sri Ramakrishna's advice, Swami Brahmananda is kind of the first president. So initially, Swami Vivekananda was the president of the organization, and Swami Brahmananda was the president of the Calcutta or the Belur Mott. But very soon, Swami Vivekananda relinquished that, and Swami Brahmananda was. So we consider him to be the first president of the order. So you can imagine from 1897 to 1922, 25 years, he led this organization. And it would not be an exaggeration to say that the organization as we understand it today, as we know it today, it just would not have been possible without Swami Brahmananda. Because the main, you can say, the template was built by him. So today, if you look at the training that a monk goes through in terms of waking up at 3:40 a.m. and meditation and reading and all that entire scheme was Swami Brahmananda's. And we also have to keep in mind that in those days, 1897, I mean, we are talking of early 1900s, Ramakrishna organization was in tremendous financial strain. When we read the reminiscences of some of the early monks of the order, they say that we didn't have money even to buy a kopin, a loincloth. I mean, just you can imagine how. So, under those challenging circumstances, to steer this ship, that's an amazing feat of Swami Brahmananda. And in terms of his disciples, there are so many. And one can say, especially if we are looking at the Vedanta Society or the Vedanta Mission in the West, many of the founders of Vedanta societies were disciples of Swami Brahmananda. So our own center, Swami Akhilananda, Swami Prabhavananda ji, Swami Jnaneshwarananda ji, Swami Nikhilananda ji, these important centers, Swami Yatishwarananda ji, all these illustrious souls were disciples of Swami Brahmananda. And now, Swami Brahmananda, he never gave, as to the best of our knowledge, he never gave a public lecture. He never really wrote a book. I mean, the book that we typically associate with him, Dharma Prashange, it's not really a book authored by him in the classical sense. So whatever he taught was through example. And Albert Einstein once said that example is not just one way of learning, it's the only way you learn. So in that sense, Swami Brahmananda's instructions, teachings, all through examples. And these examples are really very fascinating. Just to give you a couple. Okay. One day, Swami Brahmananda went to the kitchen of the Belur Mutt. And there, as you know, they kind of cut fruits, vegetables. So he says to the monks there, I will give each one of you a potato, peel the skin, and bring it back to me. Strange. I mean, what is he trying to say? Now, of course, you have to keep in mind that in those days, what we know as peeler, that was not available. They had what is known as a boti. Boti is a curved blade, cast iron curved sharp blade, and so you kind of take the potato and twist it around, and you peel the skin. So he gives this each monk a potato. They peel off the skin. They bring him back. He looks. At one potato, he says, "This person had the best meditation today." Now, this is so difficult to understand. What is this potato with meditation? What is the relationship? Then he says, you see, the mind is the same. Now, if you can focus your mind, and that he saw by how one peeled that potato with very little, I mean, just the skin, very little flesh gone. So that mind, when you now give to meditation, of course the meditation will be good. So just by looking at a peeled potato, he knew whose meditation was good. Then, as you can imagine, monks would come to him and they would say, well, Maharaj, we have been now practicing for so long, we still haven't gotten any benefit, discouraged. His instructions would be, I mean, to each person it would be different. To some he said, well, you have to redouble your efforts, it doesn't happen overnight. To some he would give very specific instructions. So, to one monk he said, Nisha jap korbi. Nisha jap means you do your japam at 12 o'clock midnight. And we read in Swami Chaitananda's book, that monk followed till the end of his life, and Swami Chaitananda ji did meet him, and so he would say, he writes that we would see the light in his room until midnight, maybe a few minutes after midnight, and then he would finish his meditation, and then he would go to sleep. So, very specific instructions, but some instructions that people who followed, they benefited a lot. And not just to monks, I mean, his instructions to lay people like us were also very inspiring. I mean, there's this famous incident where he went to what is today Bangladesh, East Bengal at that time, and he was visiting places, and he was on his way back to Dhaka, and he was on a train station, and a lady comes to him, and she says, please give me some spiritual instructions. And Swami Brahmananda says, well, my train is coming, I don't have much time. All I can say is read the gospel, and that's it. And so, as I said, different instructions, but they who reminisced about them later on, they say how much they benefited from it. Okay, now Swami Brahmananda's, if you want to kind of say, well, give me 2 or 3 to start and develop this work and worship. So you cannot not do work. So whatever work you have to do, but then also work and worship. And slowly it'll become work as worship. And then it'll graduate to work is worship. So this dictum was very much his favorite. He said multiple times to multiple people. And then he also used to say one shloka from the Hitopdesha. It's not just in the Hitopdesha, it's also in other places. And in Sanskrit it says, Satyam vada, priyam vada, ma vada, satyam apriyam. And if you translate it, it will be speak the truth, speak it pleasantly, do not speak a truth which is not pleasant. That's the typical translation, but it's not really the correct translation. What it is trying to say is, that sometimes we have this notion that we have to tell the truth, and no matter how much it affects people, and what it actually is trying to say is that if you have to say something which is truthful but is not unpleasant, you just think about it how best to speak it. Not at all is it saying speak untruth, but it's saying that sometimes in our zeal to speak the truth, we hurt people needlessly. There is no need for that, okay? So that was, again, one of his favorite advices. Then, okay, 8:15. So, Swami Brahmananda's biography is incomplete without his fishing experiences. He was an avid fisherman. He learnt it from his father, and he loved to go fishing. So much so that when he was the president of the order, he would go to, there used to be a pond. Today that pond doesn't exist in the Belur Mutt premises, and many people would see him with a fishing rod perched on kind of a pedestal and spending hours after hours in this fishing, okay? Now, Swami Brahmananda also, if he was successful in catching a fish, then the people who were with him, that would be wonderful. But if he was unsuccessful, those people had a very tough time. So, because he thought they have to be inauspicious, and so he wouldn't associate with them. So whenever he would go fishing, he would ask his novices and monks, want to come with me? All would say, no, Maharaj, we have this work, we have that work. Nobody wanted to be on his rough side. So then one day, he goes to fishing in the morning. He spends a few hours, no luck. So as he's coming back, he sees a novice. And he's mad at that novice. You inauspicious guy, because of you, I didn't get any fish today. I don't want to see your face again. So he blasts that novice. Now, the novice, what can he do? So then, Swami Brahmananda goes to his room. This is early mornings. So he goes to his room. Everything is fine. Now comes the time for lunch. Now, lunchtime, so Swami Brahmananda, of course, he's thinking, I will have to go for fishing again in the afternoon. So lunchtime, as he walks towards the main serving area, he decides that maybe I'll see that face again, that inauspicious novice's face again. So he takes a detour. So he takes a detour, and in those days, Belur Math used to be a pretty wooded area. So he takes a detour around some woods. And as he's kind of coming out from that wooded area towards the mutt, he hears some noise. And he looks and says that novice. And he is so mad at him. He says, you guy, because of you, I took this detour, and now again you are in front of me. And the novice says, Maharaj, you asked me not to show my face, so I didn't go by the regular route. I took this detour. So both of them, they took this detour, and anyway. So the second instance is very illuminating. Swami Brahmananda, again, he's sitting on that pedestal in front of that pond with his fishing rod. A very important official, Midnapur. Midnapur is a district, just like our county, you can say, analogous to our county. So the Midnapur DM, district magistrate, a very high post in those days. Midnapur's DM, he comes to Belur Math. And at that time, Swami Premananda, Baburam Maharaj was the manager. So he comes to the Math office, and he tells Baburam Maharaj, I want to be initiated. And in those days, and even to some extent today, only the president used to initiate. So Swami Premananda says, okay, please have a seat. Can I give you some refreshment? Can I give you some water? And he's pretty important DM. So after some time he says, where is your president? And Swami Premananda says, he'll come, please relax. So minutes pass. This person is getting more anxious. So then this person has had it, the Midnapur DM. He says, I've been waiting here for so long. You can't even tell me when your president is coming. This is too much. But by the way, I'm leaving. But by the way, as I was coming near that pond, I saw a monk in ochre cloth with a fishing rod. Who is he? So Swami Premananda, what could he do? He said, he is our president. He said, oh, that's your president? And I, such a fool, I wanted to take initiation from a fisherman? Oh, come on. So he leaves in a huff. So then when Swami Brahmananda returns, Premananda Maharaj says, see, Raja Maharaj, you are the president, you have to behave like a president. You see this. And then he recounts the story, this Midnapur DM came. So he says, oh, Baburam Da, many Midnapur DMs will come and go. Don't worry. So Premananda, of course, is not satisfied. But what to do? There's nothing one can do. Then it so happens that after a few days, that same Midnapur DM comes back again. And again he comes to the Math office and he sees Swami Premananda. And so Premananda is shocked. He says, yes, I left that day in a huff. but Sri Ramakrishna appeared to me in a dream and he said, no, you go back and take initiation. So that's why I'm here. And so Premananda Maharaj says, yes, okay, so let me take you to Swami Brahmananda's room. They go upstairs to his room, and what do they find? Swami Brahmananda in Samadhi. So in other words, when he was talking to Swami Premananda, he did say, Babu Ramda, don't worry, DMs will come and go. I have many forms. So that was the fisherman fishing form, and now this. And as I have said again and again, that was his swaroop. It was just that he somehow managed to keep himself a little lower so that he could, so that we can learn from his life. Then, as we have seen, he was the president, but very unique kind of a president. He was the president who would hate to go to these trustee meetings. And his brother disciples would ask him, Maharaj, we have this trustee meeting. No, I don't feel good. No, So one day they said, Maharaj, you see, this is pretty important work of the organization. You are the president. He says, see, what can I do? I mean, I just see these shadows. There's nothing else that I can relate to. So, I mean, his level was so high that he just didn't find anything of value in these things. Okay. Now, all right, let me give you 823. So let me give you one more example of his instructions. There was a Swami Mukteshwarananda ji. He was known as Ishwar Maharaj. Ishwar Maharaj he had some problems. He was very unruly, disobedient, quarrelsome, hot-tempered. So, of course, as you can imagine, living with him was becoming very difficult. So what to do? I mean, so one day, Swami Premananda, Baburam Maharaj, he took Ishwar Maharaj with him, came to Brahmananda's room. He says, Raja Maharaj, you have to do something, this monk, and he gave all these qualities, quarrelsome, unruly, disrespectful, this and this. You please bless him because we have had it. So Maharaj says, no, my hands don't feel too good today. You, Baburam, you bless him. So Baburam Maharaj takes Brahmananda's hand, puts it on top of Mukteshwarananda. And Swami Brahmananda's face and demeanor change immediately. And everybody realizes it, including Ishwar Maharaj, Swami Mukteshwarananda, and including Swami Premananda. So Swami Premananda realizes what special occasion this is. So then he puts his head, Swami Premananda, so that Rakal Maharaj, Raja Maharaj could bless him. And immediately when Swami Brahmananda puts his hand on Swami Premananda's head, Swami Premananda then starts calling other people. See, come, take his blessing, this is, and you can relate, it's kind of like our Kalpataru 1st January 1886 experience with Sri Ramakrishna. So monks come, they get blessed. After some time, a person comes, a devotee, Swami Premananda says, go to Swami Brahmananda, is in a special mood today. So he comes and he's expecting, he has heard the story, he's expecting to be blessed. Swami Brahmananda is just sitting. So he says, Maharaj, what happened? I heard this. He says in Hindi, Jo aaya, wo chala gaya. I mean, the power that I had, now it's gone, so I'm so sorry, I can't do much. Okay. So then, 826, of course, I should wrap up. We come to towards the end of his life, Swami Brahmananda's life. It's 1922, and let me read just a few sentences from his last days. And this is from Swami Chaitanananda's book, God Lived with Them, the chapter on Swami Brahmananda. Sri Ramakrishna had made a prediction about Brahmananda to his close disciples. When Rakhal knows his real nature, his body will not last anymore. The master never told Rakhal about this vision, and he forbade his disciples to reveal it as well. So this is the background. But now, Swami Brahmananda has many complications, health complications. So people are realizing that his end is near. Now we will, because we have almost run out of time, I will skip a few lines and I'll come to I'll come to 8th April 1922. On Saturday, 8th April 1922, the burning sensation in his body, his meaning Swami Brahmananda, in his body and his thirst for water increased. At noon, seeing the ladies of Balaram's family, he was in Balaram Bose's house, and that's where he used to live most of the time in Calcutta. At noon, seeing the ladies of Balaram's family crying, Maharaj said to them, "Why are you so afraid? I bless you all." In the evening, Durgapado Ghosh, doctor, came and inquired about his discomfort. Maharaj answered with a line from the Viveka Chudamani, to endure all kinds of afflictions without caring to redress them. Verse number 24. And then again, I'm skipping a few sentences. A deep silence pervaded the room. The monks and devotees encircling Maharaj were anxious. He opened his eyes again and began to speak. "I am floating on the banyan leaf of faith in the ocean of Brahman. Vivekananda Dada, Baburam Dada, Jogen Dada, I see the feet of Sri Ramakrishna." So he's calling to his brother disciples who have left their mortal body, Vivekananda, Premananda, and Yogananda. In the meantime, Saradananda arrived. Seeing him, Maharaj said, "Brother Sharat, you have come. My knowledge of Brahman and Vedanta are getting mixed up. You are a knower of Brahman. Please tell me about it." So this is Brahmananda asking Saradananda. And what does Saradananda say? He says, "My goodness," replied Saradananda, "you are full of that knowledge. The master gave you everything." Then Maharaj said, "The master is real, and so is his divine play. I have almost reached Brahman. Only a little veil is left." He wanted to drink a little lemonade and then said with a smile, "Look, what is this? I am saying Brahman, Brahman, and again lemonade, lemonade." He continued, "Father in heaven, look, this is a wonderful idea. It is also a path of God." So I will just go to the last couple of paragraphs. Maharaj. So this is now 10th April. Maharaj greeted Shivananda and Abhedananda who came to see him. Sardananda later said, "This time we shall not be able to keep Maharaj anymore. His vision of Krishna on the lotus," remember the very first prayer that we had, his vision of Krishna on the lotus, which the master forbade us to disclose to him, has come out from his own lips. The doctors expected him to fall into a coma, but he was fully conscious until the end. Boshishen is a very well-known devotee. He has his memoirs. In his memoirs, he writes, Boshishen wrote in his memoirs, "An hour before he gave up his body, he ceased speaking and seemed to have withdrawn to some distant realm beyond the reach of any of us. I was very gently stroking his palm and wondering whether he still remembered that old playful pressure of his thumb. At the same instant I felt it, light but unmistakable, Maharaj's last bequest to me." Ramakrishna's prophecy about his spiritual son Rakhal proved to be true. At 8:45 p.m. on Monday, 10th April 1922, Swami Brahmananda passed away. The next day, his body was carried from Calcutta to Belur Mott and created on the banks of the Ganges. Later, a temple was built on that spot. Today, there's a beautiful temple of Swami Brahmananda in Belur Mott. And we kind of relate to it in the sense that when we read the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, as you know, there is this very detailed description of Sthita Prajna. And the verse number 72, the last verse of second chapter basically says, Esha Brahmi Sthiti Parthana Enam Prapya Vimuhyati Antakali. So I'm not getting into this. So it basically means that one who has attained this state of Brahman at the time of one's departure, then one attains the Brahman. And there can be no better example of this shloka than in the case of Swami Brahmananda. So with that, I pray that may his life and his teachings continue to inspire us and make us, help us in our spiritual quest. So we will meditate for 30 seconds, and then if you have any questions. Questions? Yes, Charlie.
Swami Brahmananda came from a very wealthy family, but at the beginning, after Sri Ramakrishna passed away, the monks were very poor. How did that affect Swami Brahmananda at that point?
By that time, he had become so spiritually elevated that it didn't really affect him. His father did try to bring him back home. I mean, just to give you an example, in this monastic tradition, there is what we call the Python model. What is the Python model? The Python model is that just to step back a bit, when these monks were wanderers, what would their life be like? So they would, let's say, live in a hut, meditate hours after hours, and then at fixed times, they would go to what is known as a choltri. Choltri is a place where they feed monks. So at fixed times, you would go and you would get maybe a chapati, some dal, and that was how they would sustain themselves. Now the Python model is they don't even do that, because they say, well, if we are creatures of the divine will take care of us. So with Swami Brahmananda, there are two very interesting incidents. One was he sat down in meditation, and that place was kind of cold at that time. He didn't have warm clothing. So he is in meditation. A passerby notices this, that there is this monk in meditation and it's so cold. So that passerby feels bad. He puts in a blanket for Maharaj. Of course, Maharaj is in meditation. He notices, but so he puts in this blanket. Maharaj notices is in meditation. Then Maharaj sees a thief comes, picks up the blanket and runs away. And the Maharaj is as unmoved by the granting of the blanket as he is by the stealing of the blanket. Then another instance which comes to mind is this is in Ayodhya. Ayodhya, as you know, is the birthplace of Sri Rama and very famous pilgrimage center. So Swami Turiyananda, Hari Maharaj and they go to Ayodhya. But at that time, Ayodhya was in a famine. So food was very difficult to get. So they somehow got a little bit of vegetable which in Bengali is known as kochu. Kochu is, you can say, a tuber. It's a root. And but there are two kinds of that root. One is the edible kind, the other is not edible. So they get this kochu, and the moment Swami Brahmananda eats it, he has his face swells, and immediately Hari Maharaj knows that there is this allergic reaction. Now, the antidote to kochu is lime. You apply lime. Okay, so he starts to find lime. So he goes to a lime grove. There is no lime. He asks the owner. The owner says, "This is out of season. I mean, there are no limes on the trees." So luckily, he finds couple. He asks the owner's permission. The owner gives the permission. He brings a lime. He applies on his face. He's fine. Okay. So so this is early morning. This is morning of one day. That whole day they get no food. Next day, in the morning, they go to the river Saryu. Saryu is the river in Ayodhya. So they go to take a bath in Saryu, and as they are taking bath, a monk comes running to them, and he says, "Oh, please come to my hut and take some prasad." So they say, "Well, we don't know you." He says, No, please, I insist." So these two monks, they go, and they have khichdi and pickles, which is kind of a delicacy. So then they ask this monk, says, "Why did you invite us?" He says, No, actually, yesterday night in a dream, Sri Rama appeared to me, and he said that there are these two monks who have not had food. Please feed them khichdi and pickles. Okay, very good. So as they are coming back from this monk's hut, Swami Brahmananda then says to Turiyananda, "Ramakrishna exists." So Turiyananda is, of course, puzzled. "What do you mean Ramakrishna exists?" He says, "Yesterday, after that allergic reaction, and when you applied that lime balm to me, I told Sri Ramakrishna that you have to feed me khichdi and pickles, or else you don't exist." So deep was his faith and conviction. So it didn't really affect him. Again, this is my understanding. At least we don't find any. But as you can see, his fishing, that was kind of the only thing that remained with him from his rich man's life, the obsession with fishing. Yes, please, come. I don't know if during fishing, maybe possible, but definitely samadhi and fishing were, you can say, if not daily, pretty regular occurrences. But it's possible, I don't know. Yes, Vishwanath.
Any mention of those quadruplets?
No, I don't know any. The only reference is to his son. Brahmananda had a son, and Ananda Mohan, his father, actually took care of his son. Brahmananda wanted his son to become a monk. Satyananda was his name. But unfortunately, when Satyanand was 10 or 11, he had an accident and he had grievous injuries. And so he passed away when he was, I think, 10 or 11. And all we know is that Vishweshwari Devi, who was kind of a semi-nun even before Satyanand died, she almost became she lived in a family life, but she was almost like a nun. That's all I know. But the quadruplets, I don't really know. I haven't seen any reference. Okay, thank you so much.